All right, folks. Thanks for checking out the video. I want to talk today about an under the radar story that came out this week regarding what the CDC knew regarding the effectiveness of the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, this is should be a major story, but you're not going to see this on CNN. Fox isn't going to cover much of it. You're not going to see them talking about this on The View. You're not going to see them talking about this on MSNBC. You're not going to see this in the Washington Post. But we have a major story. New emails show COVID vaccine mandates were based on a lie. And it goes on to say here on Monday, we got a bombshell. New documents indicate the entire justification for vaccine mandates was based on a falsehood, and the public health officials knew it. Emails obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request show that CDC Director Rochelle Walensky and former NIH Director Francis Collins were aware of and discussed breakthrough cases of COVID in January 2021, right when the vaccines became widely available. In her email, Walensky says that clearly it is an important area of study, links to a study raising the issue, and assures the person she is sending it to that Dr. Anthony Fauci is looped into these conversations. However, in public, Walensky was saying something quite different. 2 months after discussing this data, she said vaccinated people don't carry the virus and don't get sick. In a congressional hearing, after it became clear people were able to get infected with COVID even after receiving the vaccine, she defended her original statements by claiming it was true at the time she said it, namely for the strands we were dealing with in early 2021, which was obviously BS. We now know that was not true and that Walensky herself knew it was not true. Jay Bhattacharya, a professor at the Stanford School of Medicine, called the revelation stunning. He pointed out that despite this knowledge, they continued to push vax mandates anyway. This is the real scandal, as there is little harm in getting something like this wrong in a vacuum. After all, COVID-19 vaccines certainly saved many, many lives and reduced the severity of infection for many more. Well, that's debatable. But the first vaccine mandates were pushed, even though those in charge knew people could contract and spread the virus while vaccinated, is indefensible. That they misled the public on this makes it even worse. If the vaccine stopped COVID-19 dead in its tracks, as Fauci explained, then the decision to institute a vaccine mandate would merely be a controversial yet ultimately legitimate public health measure. The fact it did not do that, but rather had primarily personal benefits, completely removes the justification for mandates. The Biden administration tried to impose a vaccine mandate on employers. Thousands of people were fired from their jobs, and there was a time when unvaccinated people were not even allowed into restaurants in some of the country's largest cities. And it was all based on a lie. Goes on to say there must be a substantive reckoning within our public health institutions and government more generally in the aftermath of the pandemic. Well, there won't be, not as long as the current people are running the show. From vaccines to masks to schools to economic aid, it seems that each aspect of the pandemic was accompanied by its own set of lies and distortions. There is a reason trust in our institutions has taken such a hit in recent years. If those in charge do not, at some point, recognize what they did, commit not to do it again, and actually act differently next time they are in a similar situation, then institutional trust will continue to get worse. Unfortunately, I wouldn't bet on it actually happening anytime soon. So, yeah, I mean, I just saw this today. Apparently, this came out on Tuesday, I believe, or Wednesday, and you're hardly seeing this anywhere. This should be a major story. It's not. It reminds me. There was a news station, or there is a news station in the area that I live, that had a slogan that they used on their news promos that said, "Holding the powerful accountable." Well, they obviously don't do that, because if any of the mainstream media organizations that are out there were truly holding the powerful accountable, this and many, many, many other things about that whole situation would be front and center, and they're not. So the next time you have a conversation with somebody who keeps defending this stuff, you can point them to this. All we can do is try. We can't necessarily we can't necessarily wake everybody up, but all we can do is try. All we can do is put the information out there and hope that it leads to some good. So I just wanted to point this out. So let me know what you all think. And as always, we'll see you on the next one.